What's going on, everyone? Back in November, I made an NFL mid-seasons award video, and today I'm going to follow that up with an end-of-season awards show. Even though the Super Bowl hasn't happened yet, the NFL Honors is Saturday night, and I want to get in my picks for these awards before the NFL gives them out. I'm going to use the same awards that I used for the mid-season show, and that video is linked in the description if you want to check that out first. I'm AB Sports, and let's get into it. Starting off with Offensive Player of the Year, it has to be Derrick Henry. He became only the 9th player ever to rush for 2,000 yards in a single season. He basically just had the 5th best running back season ever. Defensive Player of the Year, TJ Watt. I know the Steelers fell apart down the stretch, but that was no fault of Watt's. He led the league in sacks and led the league in pressures, and in pressures, he was 16 ahead of second place. For Coach of the Year, Kevin Stefanski. Stefanski changed the culture in Cleveland and led the joke franchise of the NFL all the way to the divisional round. Offensive Rookie of the Year. This was a tough one because most of the rookie records for both quarterbacks and wide receivers were shattered this year by the Justins, Herbert and Jefferson, but I'm going to have to give it to Justin Herbert. Both these players were amazing despite being drafted 3rd and 5th at their positions, and they took the league by storm. But the award has to go to Herbert because I just think quarterbacks are more important than wide receivers to the NFL. Defensive Rookie of the Year, this one wasn't hard. Chase Young. His numbers aren't going to wow anyone, but he looks special if you watch him on the field. And he also led the Washington football team to the playoffs and kept them close with Tampa on Wild Card Weekend. Most Unstoppable award goes to Patrick Mahomes. The Chiefs only lost 1 game all season. And in that game, they still scored 32 points. Mahomes is just unstoppable. I've never seen anyone consistently stop the Chiefs' offense with him under center. The only way to beat the Chiefs is to outscore them. Good luck, Tom Brady. Next up, the award for Most Stoppable goes to Benny Snell. The backup running back on the Steelers had to play quite a bit because of injuries to James Conner, and in his time, he got 120 touches and gained 3.5 yards per touch, which was good enough for last in the NFL. This award has not changed since November and is the biggest fantasy bust. It's still Michael Thomas. When I made the mid-season awards, I gave it to Michael Thomas because he had not played yet. And in the second half of the season, he played, but he was terrible. He didn't even catch a touchdown. First-round fantasy picks are supposed to score touchdowns. The Fantasy Hero. I have to give this award to Alvin Kamara. His 6 touchdown performance on Christmas Day in the Fantasy Championship undoubtedly won many people a fantasy title this year. The best play was Ryan Fitzpatrick's 34-yard pass while being face masked to the ground to win the game against the Raiders in Week 16. The Dolphins don't want to hear this, but if they had stuck with Fitzmagic and kept Tua on the bench, they would have been in the playoffs. The award for Best Game goes to the Ravens and the Browns, who played a Monday Night Football thriller in Week 14. The final score was 47-42, and every minute of the game was highly entertaining. After Cleveland scored 3 fourth-quarter touchdowns to tie the game, Lamar returned from the locker room on 4th down for a big touchdown pass, and Justin Tucker made a field goal with 2 seconds left to win the game. Both of these teams rightfully made it to the divisional round. The next category is the Super Bowl in an alternate universe where the NFL is only 3 quarters long, and this one has not changed since the fall. Falcons versus Chargers would still be the matchup. I made this award because in the first half of the year, they both blew 3 15-plus point leads. And the funny thing was that when they played each other in the second half of the year, it seemed like they were begging each other to win this game to be the team to keep this award. There were 3 interceptions in like the last 5 minutes. It was just hilarious to watch. The worst team that made the playoffs award goes to the Chicago Bears. The Bears were kind of a joke of a playoff team. They went on a 6-game losing streak in the middle of the season and limped into the playoffs just because they were less bad than Arizona. Some people argue Washington for this award, but Washington was competitive with Tampa in the playoffs. Chicago had 3 points against the Saints until there was like 10 seconds left. On the flip side, the best non-playoff team was Miami. They won this award in November as well, as they weren't inside the AFC playoffs then either. Unfortunately, their conference was just too good, and they switched quarterbacks at a bad time, but they were the best team that didn't make the playoffs. They finished 10-6. The award for worst team goes to the Jacksonville Jaguars. They lost 15 straight games after beating the Colts in week 1. But hey, you got Trevor Lawrence. The best team? Kansas City. I don't think I have to explain this much. They're 24-1 in Mahomes' last 25 starts, and like I talked about earlier, are unstoppable on offense. But despite Mahomes being amazing, Aaron Rodgers takes the cake for MVP, because the most valuable player is a regular season award, and Rodgers was outstanding during the regular season. He was first in passer rating with 121, which is absurdly high. For reference, Mahomes was 108. He led the league in touchdowns with 48 and was last in picks, which is 5. He also led the Packers to the 1 seed and was one bad coaching decision away from a potential Super Bowl appearance. Now I'm going to go over the All-Pro teams I have. On defense, TJ Watt, I talked about him for Defensive Player of the Year. Myles Garrett, he wasn't necessarily the same after coming back from COVID, but he was so good before that I had to include him on the list. Aaron Donald, don't need to explain that one. Za'Darius Smith, he was top 5 in sacks and is also one of the best run defenders in the NFL. Devin White, I put him on my November list, and now everyone is talking about him as the anchor on the Bucs defense for their Super Bowl team. Roquan Smith, an elite linebacker for the Bears, 140 tackles, and didn't allow a touchdown on 80 targets in the passing game. Darius Leonard is similar to Roquan Smith in that he's the total package on defense. He's a tackling machine, he rushes the passer and plays great in coverage. Xavier Howard led the league in picks with 10. Jalen Ramsey, the most physical corner in the league, shut down DeAndre Hopkins and DK Metcalf twice this year. In the secondary for safeties, Jamal Adams is not great in pass coverage, but at blitzing, he's fantastic. He had 9.5 sacks in 12 games, which broke the defensive back single season record. The Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu, is a do-it-all defender who was crucial to the Chiefs' D kicking it in gear for the playoffs. On special teams, Jason Sanders, the Dolphins kicker, got the kicker award as he was 72 of 75 on kicks this year and consistently drilled 50-yarders for 5 points for my fantasy team. And Michael Dixon, hook 'em horns, had 32 punts inside the 20 and an average of 50 yards per punt this year. Next up, the offensive All-Pro team, where they are led by quarterback Aaron Rodgers, my MVP, running back Derrick Henry, my Offensive Player of the Year. At wide receivers, Davante Adams, who had 98 receiving yards per game and 18 touchdowns in just 14 games. And Stephon Diggs, who led the NFL in catches and yards with over 1,500. So he was really right to be criticizing Kirk Cousins and wanting out of town because Josh Allen got him the rock. Also, this is my time to mention Josh Allen. He's too good of a player to not have been mentioned in this video. He and Diggs set the league on fire this year, and the Bills should be back for vengeance next year. They're not going anywhere. Travis Kelce, he's maybe the best tight end ever. He's sort of on that path. He was second in the whole NFL in receiving yards and seems to be always open. At flex, Dalvin Cook. I think it sucks for him that his season was completely overshadowed by Derrick Henry because he had 1,900 total yards and 17 touchdowns in just 14 games. For the offensive line, I give it to the Browns because they protected Baker and blocked for Chubb and really allowed this team to go far. You may recognize Jedrick Wills in that picture there as the guy in Baker's Book Club in the Progressive commercials. And so this is my video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, how about hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel? Watch out for my Super Bowl video coming later this week, and thanks for watching.